All right, so we're watching the Vice President of the United States, a half a world away in Israel, calling for prayers for the Prince of Peace, as he says, another name that Jesus Christ can bear. He said he's calling for the continuation for the movement of the Prince of Peace, rather, to continue all of the peace around the world, but particularly in the Middle East right now. So infusing that faith into his message, as he often does. Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub, now Army veteran, Black Hawk helicopter pilot, battalion commander, and international military strategist. You have been all over the world as well. Look, that call for faith at this moment seemed right on time, because it really talks to the tenuous and fragile nature of where we are between Israel and Hamas right now. Your thoughts?
Hey, Harris. Yeah, good to see you. I love that ending. I think it's something that should resonate with everybody in faith, regardless of Christian or otherwise, but to focus on the fact that peace is something that is actually achievable, that we know there are hurdles to go over, and then it's not always going to be pretty in the process of getting there. But if we maintain that focus on the goal of achieving that kind of peace, then it will all be worth it. And I love what the Vice President said there, bringing it back to how important this region is to the Christian faith in general, but to all people who live there. They should want to have that kind of peace, and let's all hope that it does happen.
You know, I want to hit a couple of points that began with the Vice President, but also you saw Steve Witkoff there, Jared Kushner, sort of famously known now for bringing hostages home and being part of the Abraham Accords and all the rest. I mean, you are looking at people in this administration who have literally done things that have not been possible for decades upon decades. So one thing that Steve Witkoff was talking about is that he had met, along with Jared Kushner today, 10 hostages and their families. He said there wasn't a victim among them, meaning they are thankful for where they are and they are looking toward the future. Your thought?
Yeah, absolutely important. Dealing with hostages, one of the first things to recognize the fact is that their mental capacity and their psychological stability. Ultimately, they have a no victimhood strategy. They've all come out of there with this idea and the simple fact that they're going to win in the end, no matter what. And when dealing with hostage crisis people who come out of those situations, their mentality is probably the first thing to address. You're clearly going to address the physical nature of any kinds of wounds or harms like that, but psychologically, those wounds can last for a long time. I'm thoroughly impressed with the attitude that these hostages and their families have taken towards their what looks like to be a very rapid recovery from what happened to them.
Yeah, thank the Lord, right? All right, so the Vice President also talked about, those worrisome spots, those hills and valleys after 2 years of war, the fighting, what we saw over the weekend where one side says, this happened, the other says that happened, and away they go. And the thing that Israel said happened was that 2 Israeli soldiers were killed, and they began firing back into Gaza. How do you hold the line in this fragile peace talk, phase 1 of the ceasefire agreement? And also the Vice President said that it will take a while for those hills and valleys to kind of smooth out, but they're leaning into the process now. What does all that mean to you?
Well, first of all, the simple fact that waging peace is often harder than waging war. There are a number of reasons why, through the process of pointing fingers at different people, that you could go back into full-scale conflict. And in this particular case, where you had two people that were firing on IDF soldiers, or at least 2, whatever the final number was, it seems like, and Israel has stated this too, that these were Hamas members that did not know that there was a ceasefire in place. So sometimes the best counsel you have is patience to figure out the facts on the ground and see and make a risk decision. Is this event worth going back into full-scale conflict? And I believe in this one, Israel was wise in saying, no, this is not. And that's just one of those hills and valleys that you're going to have to climb and descend as we work through this process, and know that in the end, keeping the eyes on that goal of peace and knowing that everything is not going to be perfect, but you have to make the decision. Is it worth the risk of expanding the conflict over something that just happened? Often it's not, but that's sometimes what the bad side and the bad guys want to have happen, is the war to continue.
Well, yeah, it legitimizes them. to have the war continue in many ways politically anyway. Look, all three men are talking about the configuration of the Deconfliction Coordination Center. And I guess that is like a facility that would operate like a demilitarized zone. That's kind of how I understand it. So you're going to put your food, all objects, everything that you're trying to send with aid have to come through that center. I remember that Cooper said that. And he said that the facility is a hub for anything that goes into, Admiral Cooper goes into Gaza, but also the peacekeeping. And whether, you're going to let other countries put their troops on the ground. And the vice president said that has to go through Israel, who they allow to have on the ground in their country to hold the line. But he says that the Turks have a role. That's my last question to you. Why the Turks, and what does that peacekeeping look like?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question to answer. And the Turks have been involved from the beginning. Unfortunately, they were behind supporting some of the ISIS actions inside Syria. So that is one of the greater risks with the Turks getting involved in Israel. But maybe if they're given a chance, they might actually be able to be part of the solution here. So I guess their actions will speak louder than any kind of words as we move forward. And ultimately, that's what that coordination cell is all going to be about. It's military, it's diplomacy, it's economics, it's information, it's crossing language barriers, all of it. If you go to one place and are able to coordinate everything, you have the least risk of some sort of conflict and it possibly expanding. So I am watching Turkey very closely on this just due to their history, but their actions, again, will speak loud.
All right. I fibbed a bit. I have one more question. So holding this, is it going to look like the DMZ between North and South Korea? Like, are we going to be there for a long period of time as you see it now?
I certainly hope not. I mean, I guess that potential always exists, but I think what we have to do is ensure that the Middle Eastern nations own this more than anybody else other than Israel itself. America really shouldn't. We can be there to help coordinate, but these Middle Eastern nations have the funding, they have the people, they have the ability to create a scenario of lasting peace. Hopefully they can do that to where there is no wall between Gaza and Israel. They can actually work together in some way in peace, and that will be up to Hamas and the PLO.
We are going to also need the Prince of Peace, as the Vice President ended his comments with today. Lieutenant Colonel Darin Gaub, Bronze Star recipient. Always great to have you in focus. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.